Hoè, dahe pashe, zani, wawi hoimpi combra. Welcome to This Osage Life, a video podcast about everything Osage. I am your host, Shannon Shaw Duty, editor of the Osage News, the official independent media of the Osage Nation. I am very excited to introduce you to our three guests for our second episode. Three fabulous Osage women who are behind the scenes and making the nation's Sesquicentennial celebration such a huge success. They are Felicia Ponca Kenner, who planned and coordinated the celebration, Welana Queton, director of the beautiful and moving play E'ko and Her Ni.Ka.She, and Addie Hudgins, director of the Wahzhazhe Cultural Center, who is behind the planning of the meal and social dance. Felicia, let's start with you.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this really important conversation. It's such an honor to join you and Welana and Addie. It's three of my favorite things in life. It's literally art, food, and community. So it doesn't get better than this. So as you mentioned, my name is Felicia Ponca Kenner. My family lives in Oklahoma. Many of you may know my father, Carl Ponca. We are from the Gray Horse District, but I live and work in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I've been planning events for 23 years. That's actually shocking to say that, but for 23 years, my company is Art of Celebration, and we specialize in large events, mostly dedicated to community efforts, nonprofits, cultural projects, and I do some private events on the side. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Welana.
Okay, away. My name is Welana Queton. I am Osage Creek and Cherokee, but I predominantly identify with being Osage. I've been raised Osage all my life. I am from the Zanzoli district, and my Osage name is Mitsache, meaning sacred son, with the Bear Clan. And I'm just happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Welana. And Addie Hudgins, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Addie Hudgins. I'm the director of the Wahzhazhe Cultural Center. I've been the director since 2017, so going on 5 years. I've worked for the nation going on 15 years. I'm just glad to be here.
Thank you, Addie. And for those of you who didn't get a chance to attend the Sesquicentennial, you missed a very special day, but our guests are going to tell you about all the hard work it took to put on an event of this magnitude. I believe the final count of people visiting that day was over 2,000 Osages and their family attending the celebration. So Felicia, can you tell us about what planning an event like this took and what it meant to you personally?
It was a big undertaking, and but it means a great deal to me. I think once I learned how to pronounce Sesquicentennial, we were on a roll. We definitely were. And when Marla Redcorn actually first reached out to me to see if I was interested in and available, I did a little research. And it came to me like just a flood of memories. My father, when I was younger, he had the Centennial book, and he told me to keep this and save it. It was a very important time in our life, and there was like very important people that celebrated during that time, and we had to remember this and pass it on to generations. And at that time, I didn't think much about it, right? But then all of a sudden, it landed in my lap, and it was an undertaking like I've never had before, and really exciting. But I didn't do it. I mean, there was a huge amount of people that helped with this. Addie, Welana, you're a big part of the success of that day. We had an exceptional committee. And I think when we first started working together, we tackled the mission first. And that's always a big part of planning an event. Like, what's the purpose? Why are we doing this? And it just came down to the core feeling of that day was that we were really honoring our ancestors that come back before us, and to be present in the moment now, and then to leave something for the future generations. And I really feel like that came through in a lot of ways. But building an event is it's like opening an onion. There's so many layers. So we had an exceptional committee, and then we really started to build on that. So our vendors, and then our artists, and kind of curating the experience of the day. And I don't know, there's a lot to say about it because it is a very complex, it's a complex undertaking, I guess. I don't know how to say it. It comes down from everything. We consider safety. You consider the comfort level of everybody, and making sure they get there and they're happy and they can create those memories, and then the overall experience. So it took a lot of hands. And I'm just so honored to work with so many of the Osage Nation staff and all the people that work there, but also all the vendors that I brought with me from New Mexico. It was amazing. So yeah, took a lot.
You know, when you talk about having that feeling come through the event, I can personally attest. I think it did. I think you accomplished what you were trying to achieve. And so I do want to move back to Welana. E'ko and Her Ni.Ka.She. This was just a wonderful job. You know, the Wahzhazhe Puppet Theater did such a wonderful job. And from the elders involved and the students of Daposka Ankodapi, which is also commonly known as the Immersion School, it was a really beautiful retelling of our Wahzhazhe creation story. The beauty of the puppets, all of it. Please tell us what that was like, making the puppets, putting on the play, and developing the story.
Wow, thank you, Shannon. Well, just as Felicia has said, you know, it was a big project. Has definitely many layers. There's many aspects to it. I do want to say that this was about a 6-month-long project that entailed lots of planning with not only just the immersion staff, with the Osage Nation Museum, but also with Felicia as well. You know, we had many questions about the stage and times and all of that. And we also had to know dimensions of the stage for the puppets, because we had planned to make some pretty large puppets that you saw. So they were pretty huge. So, and then when we got there, her staff and team was very nice and very welcoming and very open. So I just wanted to tell you that, Felicia, first off. So yeah, please tell your team I said thank you. I really enjoyed working with them.
I will. Thank you so much.
Welcome. But back
Yeah.
to the question. You know, my team consisted of Russ Tallchief, Candace Bird, and Christopher Lutter. And Russ and Candace are both Osage thespians. So of course I brought them on to the team. And then the artist that we brought in, his name was Christopher Lutter Gardella. He's from Minneapolis, Minnesota. He is a large puppet designer. And he's just absolutely amazing. But when we started this, and I asked everyone to be involved, and they of course all jumped on board. I started with giving them homework. We met once a week since June, and I gave everyone lots of homework, lots of reading. These readings were basically selected readings on Osage books on history, ethnographic information. I do believe I also had in reference photos of other Osage artists or Osage symbols, or even our clothing. We also were allowed to read some transcripts, some current elders right now that were used in creating some videos. So all of this, I wanted the team to read so we could all get on the same page as far as our understanding of our Osage history and worldview. But I also thought this would help us, you know, imagine these stories and visualize them as well. You know, if we all read the same thing, we could come back to the table and talk about, okay, what does this creation story look like? What does the giant elk look like? You know, so this was very helpful for the actual creation of the script, the whole narrative of the play, as well as, you know, the puppets itself. So along with that too, there were so many other things involved. I mean, from writing the script to actually planning the workshop event, planning rehearsals and all of that. And as you saw, we also had a video in the back. And so that also created a whole nother, thing to create with a whole nother small team. And so many aspects were involved in creating this play. But there was two main events that actually happened though for this that was kind of public. It was the workshop, the actual building of the puppets, and then also we also worked with the immersion students daily on this as well. And then in the evenings, then the rest of the community could come out, or really the community could come out at any time or at any point. So that happened. That was my major event to get through first. And then once these puppets were done, then we had to put them away for a little bit of time and then kind of get them back out once we got closer to the performance date. So it was a lot of work. It was very laborious. And there were many things involved, even to working with the students. There was a time in the day that we worked with them that they were just tired. They were done with their school day, unfortunately. So we got to play with them on that time. So a lot of my bossiness had to come out, I guess, and my I haven't worked with kids in a while. And so, but that came right out, and okay, do this and this and this, don't do that, that and that, So that was fun. And it took us actually a week to get used to working with the students and get them to a point where we finally understood how to work with them. And then by that point, it was kind of almost done. It's like, oh, it took us a week to figure out, but it was all definitely a big learning experience. There are things we can do a lot better next time, and I can't wait for that time, but.
And we'll get to that. We'll get to that later, because I really hope there's another showing of that. So Addie, I know you are largely responsible for organizing the meal and the social dance, and for over 1,000 people. What was that like?
So I wouldn't necessarily say I was in charge of organizing the meal. I would more say facilitating. Heather did a great job of organizing, and I just kind of was her helper. As a member of the committee, I would just kind of assigned myself to her to make sure she had whatever she needed that day and leading up to the event. It was an undertaking. We did all our grocery shopping on the Wednesday before. The Butcher House Meat Market delivered the meat to the site Saturday morning, and she had ordered 450 pounds of pork for the pork steam fry, 400 pounds of beef for the meat gravy, and then we had 500 pounds of flour delivered for the fry bread, 60 gallons of green beans. It was quite the ordeal. And as the RSVPs were rolling in, I was constantly just like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? But it always all works out.
I thought that was really great. All 3 districts were represented like that. And it was such a delicious meal. And I know I wasn't the only one that thought that. So now that we've gone over what efforts were made and the hard work it took to pull the event off, so tell me about what was it like in the moment? What was it like to see your hard work pay off? So Felicia, we'll start with you.
It's interesting being in the moment. I think Addie and I shared this specific moment. It was like midday and everything had launched. And I relate to a story. I was planning a very simple birthday party for my son. He was little, and it was chaotic and nothing was kind of falling into place exactly like it should have. And he looked at me kind of disparagingly and said, Mama, this party isn't going to happen. And I said, oh no, sweetheart, it's happening. Like once you start going, once you launch an event, no matter how hard you've planned, no matter how many scenarios you've run by in your mind and tried to stay on top of it, it's going and there's no stopping it. And you're kind of in the moment and you're like playing chess with things that are going, you're trying to stay ahead of everything. And so it's kind of hard to stop for a second when you're planning something like this and be really present without thinking like an hour ahead of where, 1,000 people are going to be moving in the next half an hour. But I have to say that, you had prompted this question before and it really made me sit and think for a minute. And there was a time that really resonated with me. It was, I'm going to try not to cry because this is to be shared with a lot of people. It was in the evening during the evening dance and the wind had kind of settled and my entire crew, like everything that we had been doing through the day had settled. And I asked us to all come around and we were at the evening dance and like those banners were kind of like lightly blowing. And I looked around and it was so cool. There were so many families and friend groups that were together and just talking and everybody was smiling and they had just had a wonderful dinner and had just seen an amazing show. So like everybody was really, really happy. And I saw our elders dancing and I saw little kids dancing, like some of them like in their mom's arms, like it just with this time that I realized like we did it, like we accomplished our mission, like we're here together through all of this. 150 years later, we're still here and we're celebrating and we're commemorating. And I think, which has never happened to me in an event ever, because I usually reflect on it the day after, weeks after, months after, I got to share that moment with my family and the people that I brought from New Mexico. And I have to say they were all just like blown away. So that was it, I think. Yeah. But it's hard in the moment. I want to tell you, like when things are happening, you just got to stay ahead of it. But yeah, I think it was a good day.
That's beautiful, and I think there was many Osages that shared that same sentiment that day. It was very special what happened. And Welana, in your case, the vision you had for the play, it came to life, literally. What was it like to be in the moment, to see the play unfold? Did you ever take a moment to watch the crowd and see their reactions? I think I saw a few people move to tears at one point. I know I almost cried.
I did not have time to go to look at the crowd. I was backstage a lot, kind of managing that. And quite honestly, thank goodness for Russ. Oh my gosh, he just picked up the stage direction, and that's why I brought him in. He has that experience. And so he picked that up right away with everyone. But, I think back on it now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I almost kind of blacked out or something. I don't really remember. It all was just going so fast that I'm just trying to follow with the script in the back, And there was one part that I was kind of really trying to be in charge of, this water part and stuff. So I'm trying to just get everyone in line for that. But, the play moved so fast that I didn't have time. I think I went out there a couple times when the water bird came on just to see how, people's reaction for that. I know at one point I did have to do some of those fabric things, so that was my only time that I got to get outside of, backstage. And I do remember looking at that elk and just thinking, oh my gosh, I just remember I had this smile on my face. Like I could feel my smile was just full of pure joy and happiness. And you know yourself and your smiles, and I just felt like this smile was just so honest and something that I don't feel, I guess, myself having a whole lot, of those smiles a lot, not that I'm not happy or anything, but you know what I mean. It was I don't know, it was a different different smile. It was a good smile for sure. But yeah, I just saw that and I was so proud of everyone. I was so proud of our people. I just couldn't believe it that this was on stage, you know. Um, but you know, honestly, first, you know, when I championed this workshop, you know, and this artist to come in, it was really just to have the community workshop. Let's build, you know, let's create something together as a community. And then maybe we'll just put it on parade or something, you know, wasn't quite sure. But I think Marla, when I was talking to her about all of this, she could really hear in my voice, or I guess even the way I was describing everything, you know, was kind of dramatizing things, you know, such as the elk and the creation story. And so she had thought that it would have been better if we do a play. You know, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, well, I have never done a play in my life, but let's do it. Let's try it, you know. It's like I do like to make little things, little scenes and such. And yeah, I think we can do it, you know. So I took her suggestion and we kind of went with it, you know. And that's when I gathered my team together, Russ and Candace. And so she honestly kind of created the monster of the Wahzhazhe puppet theater, really. You know, we didn't even have a name on either. It was just real quick, like, I need a name. I'm like, I don't know, Wahzhazhe puppet theater, I guess. I don't know, you know. So really that's kind of how it all came about, you know. And now, like you said, people want to see it again, you know, and it moved them to tears. I heard about the tears. I didn't see the tears. I know I kind of had some tears myself when like for instance, we were rehearsing one of the nights before with the older adults, you know, who were going to be in the elk. And of course that took some rehearsing and, you know, moving together, and this all went so quick, and without telling the full story, I did have to at least tell a little bit of the story, you know, that it was a narrative about, you know, the grandmother passes away and we talk about home. And I even kind of brought myself to tears talking about home. And then, you know, even, you know, those other people who were helping in the elk, you know, they kind of were moved to tears as well. And that's just talking about them, just trying to give them an understanding of the background, you know, of the play. And so I don't know if it was, you know, that subject of home and passing away that was kind of the point of emotion, or if it was just the whole, you know, the whole together, you know. But I'm really happy we could move people to tears, though, right? Because then I felt like we did our job. Good tears too, not bad tears.
Well, you know, and for those who don't know, Marla Redcorn Miller is the director for the Osage Nation Museum, and E'ko and Her Ni.Ka.She is the creation story, but it also follows a young Osage girl's journey after her grandmother passes. So E'ko meaning grandmother. So just in case anyone was wondering and who hasn't seen that wonderful play. Addie, you know, like we said, you know, the food was excellent and it was extremely windy that day. You know, cooking in that one couldn't have been easy, but tell us about the reactions that you saw from the cooks that made the meal and those in attendance who enjoyed the meal.
Cooks, those cooks can cook in anything, any weather. They did have a little bit of a struggle over in our fry bread tent, but Felicia was real quick about getting us some skirting to put up down there, and then they just started whipping it out. Our firemen, Heather's firemen were great that she had, so they had a great wind block. We kind of had the wood stacked in a way to where it was blocking the wind, so that was smart. I mean, it was just, they did a great job. They persevered through every challenge. Anything they didn't have, then I got to run to the store and get it for them. They had to park a little ways down, so I would go and let them park, load them up with all their stuff, take them down to where they were cooking, and then at the end of the day, they got a golf cart back. It was just a great day, and they had a good time. This whole event was, I think James Wygant asked me to be on this planning committee probably about a year ago. So it's been a full year of planning. And when we first started talking about this event, I wanted us to be able to create a space and opportunity for all Osages from anywhere to be able to come, and activities for all Osages, so that everybody would feel welcome, and create a space that was welcoming to all Osages from everywhere. So, and we did that. It was, like Felicia was saying, there were times through the day, you're just going. I think I logged 30,000 steps that day. And so you're just going, and we would see each other in passing, and it was like, it's happening. It's happening. So it was just like, it's happening, it's here, we're doing it. And there were times when I would just sit and be like, wow, have to just stop for a minute and look around me, because I'm trying to do things and make sure everything's handled and what's coming next, where we're supposed to be. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you get lost in that. And that was, one of my goals for this event was for Osage Nation employees to not have to do that. And, it just, in order for it to be an Osage event, you just don't get that. I mean, you're going to have to be on the ground running in order for everybody to create that space, I think. So anyway.
Let me ask you, so the dinner started at 5 or 5:30. So
5, we ate at 5.
What time did the cooks get started? And
Heather and I arrived at 8, and she wanted everything on the fire by 9, and she wanted to have everything off the fire and ready to go into those clamshell containers at 4 o'clock. So they started putting those together at 4, and it took an hour to get those ready. So we didn't have, that was the thing. It was like, how are we going to get this many people through this line and not take hours on hours? And so that was what Heather came up with, was let's put it in the to-go containers, have it ready early. And then I was like sitting there, I was talking with Archie and Bruce, and I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? I'm sitting there looking at it from that end, their point of view, and looking at Heather and them directly across from me. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go move those barricades and kind of block it off and make everybody go through on the sides. And then we'll have our singers and dancers go through on the front. I was like, yes, it's going to work. It's going to work. And it did. It worked good. So it was a lot, but we pulled it off.
It's a whole day of cooking from 8 a.m. on your feet over the fire. I commend all of them. Felicia, what is some of the feedback you received about the event?
I've received, everything has been overwhelmingly positive. Everything has been just, memories were created. We had our final wrap-up committee meeting, and the committee was able to share the feedback that they had received, and things that they had overheard people saying. Well, I think part of it was twofold. I think one was that people were shocked that it went off, that we did such a good job. And that's okay to be shocked. I think we were all a little shocked. So that was wonderful. And that there was so many, I want to call them touch points, and it's places that people were either inspired or they were able to interact with Osages in different kind of aspects of their life. So we had the artist vendors that were there, and merchants. So, we got to see those that are working and living in our community and really selling things and creating beautiful things. We had all of our department booths, or those departments that wanted to participate. And it just showed kind of how much outreach in the programming that we have available to our community. And we're able to talk through that. We had Anita Fields do the the art project. We had the children's book reading. We also had Elise Pichon do the poetry reading. And I had people comment about each one of those things, that they were either personally impacted by one of those moments in the day, or the puppet theater or the ballet. And it says to me that we got to everybody. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were able to do touch points with every single person, and they were all positive. So it's all been really good feedback. The other interesting thing that happened to me a few times throughout the day, which I thought was funny, was we had some really dedicated volunteers and staff, and we'd be talking and they'd say, well, next year when we do this, let's do it like that. And I was like, oh, there's no next year, like it's 50 years from now. But I think it kind of shows that there was such positivity and excitement about an event this big, that already they wanted to do it again. And I think that says a lot about that day. So that was, the positive feedback I got.
I would definitely like to see more events happening on the Osage Nation campus. I'm not gonna lie. It was really wonderful. Welana, what is some of the feedback that you've gotten from E'ko and Her Ni.Ka.She?
Well, like Felicia, it was all been very, very positive. I've even had other people reach out in other communities who want us to come perform the play, which I think is very interesting, because I'm just like, well, it's an Osage story, don't you? Osage creation story and our story. But no, it really was beautiful. I can't say it any more simple than, kind of a dream came true, basically, somehow, some way, I've always wanted to kind of create this creation story. There was more to the story, but the story that we did, but the creation story was a major part in it. And I read a lot of Osage history and ethnography, and I can't help but think about when I'm reading that, I kind of imagine what that life is, through those words and everything. What was our life like in Missouri? What was, what did that look like when we came down from the stars, and when we traveled? What did we look like? So putting that into a visual form was exciting. And I'm not going to lie, it was kind of nerve-wracking, and I was very nervous to do this in front of my people, even though all of it's based on, other people's words and even elders' words, but we're kind of a critical people. So that was the fear there, is this going to be received well? Is this too much for people? Is it are the word choices just right? All of that. I had to think about every kind of thing like that. But I've received nothing but great reviews. And but that's also not, without the help of others believing in me, like Addie, who sat on that committee, or Marla, or other people who sat on that committee. They believed in me. And so I can't thank them enough, for giving me that opportunity. And then, couldn't have done it without the help of others, like Christopher, like he was the main one, the main visual artist. None of this would have happened without, his imagination, his skill. The same with Candace, and the same with Russ. So it was just a beautiful dream come true.
That's beautiful. And I really appreciate, all the community work that went into everything that you all did. And that brings me back to Addie. There were so many Osages that came in from all over the country, and I'm sure for some of them it might have been the first time they've had traditional Osage food. What were some of the compliments or comments, or things that you heard while people were eating that delicious meal?
It was amazing. The best meat gravy ever. Of course, Heather and her pork steam fry. She's the bomb. We had bread cooks from all 3 districts. The one thing that I did hear, that the only bad thing I did hear was that we should have had some cake. And I was like, you know what? You're right. We should have had some cake. So, but the grape dumps were amazing. All the food was great. I think if there's one thing, you know, what, like Welana was talking about, she said our people are very critical people, and they are. We all are. We're all very critical people, and that's something that I've been working on with my family, and that I've been trying to do through our cultural center. Is, you know, our culture, it's a spoken culture. It's not a written culture. It's stories and things passed down from our elders. And when we were planning this event, we looked at those old books and, you know, tried to follow that same, the guidelines in there that they had given us. They're there. You just got to look for them. You got to listen, because you will hear your people talking to you if you listen. I believe that. But one thing that I've been working on with my family and trying to put back into our culture is to not be so hard on each other. We are kind and giving people. And I think that we need to learn to lift each other up and be kind to one another. And because we're very generous, but we need to not be so critical of one another. And so that's just something that I've been working on with my brothers and sisters and my nieces and nephews, and even my mom and my aunts and uncles. They're the hardest. But just, we need to remember to be kind to each other, and everybody did a great job. And I'm so glad that we were able to create that space for all Osages from everywhere. This was an opportunity of a lifetime. It really was, because this is a once in a lifetime event for most of us. So anyway, that's all.
So wrapping everything up, and I have all of you on the screen. You know, Felicia, you know, you did an outstanding job with organizing the event and making sure everything was going to plan, and you know, you had this vision. And Welana, you know, you took a community of elders and children and citizens and put them together on a project that they've never experienced before. And Addie, you know, cooking our food is such an important part of Osage tradition and culture. You know, do you guys have any final thoughts on the event, or anything upcoming, or you know, just anything at all?
I'd like to actually, I think we've done it a lot, but I can't say enough for every single person that even dedicated 1 minute to this time that we shared together. I could list and go on for probably another 15 minutes, all the people that I want to personally thank. And I think that we all do, because we know that it took a lot of hands. It really did. So I just, if in this presentation and conversation, your name didn't come up, know that in our hearts, in my heart, like, I am thanking you, and you are such a big part of that day. I mean, I'm almost to start to rattle off a whole other list of people, but I think that that was really important. And I'm just honored to sit here with you all. And if we could do it again next year, I would do it, but I'm not doing it in 50 years. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not happening. So, so we'll just relive it through the pictures and the video, which I think Abby Mashunkashe, who was a big part of this day, will be able to do a lot of follow-up in the coming year. And the committee is still working. They still have plans for some really important and very cool things that will be coming up. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But there's some good stuff coming. Yeah.
Welana, Addie, do you guys have anything to add?
Yes, I do. You know, Addie was talking about, you know, creating a space, you know, that's kind of safe and everyone's welcoming, you know. That's what I also wanted to do with this project. And as you had mentioned, too, just bringing together, a community of elders, children, artists, non-artists, even, so many community members who aren't even Osage helped. And I definitely want to give them props for sure, because there was a lot who helped in our workshop, who came every day to finish out projects. And that was huge, doing a community project isn't that easy. Some people, they like to, they'll say they're going to come, but they don't come, or they're shy, or they just can't find the time, other people have other things, practice, other rehearsals for things, or, work, whatnot. So it was very hard to, get the community on board and, yeah, come on, I need your help. We've got to finish this, or we can't, it's not going to get done. So I hope that, the community, once they saw this performance, that they really understand the importance of a community project, that it takes everyone's hands, even if it's 5 minutes, paper mache, that'll take me, that'll get me a little bit further along. But I also wanted to create all this, for everyone to be proud of, something that we all create something all together. And because, like Addie said, that's, it's uplifting to people, during those workshops, they created a space where we had really important conversations. And this was with the, adult community members, but it provided a space that we, talked about our creation story. I don't think I've ever really had a really nice, fun conversation with another Osage person about our creation story, while making something, or talking about human rights, talking about this or that, to me, that was beautiful. In the end of that workshop, I was like, wow, this was beautiful. This created this really nice, safe space for all these people of all ages to work together and talk about things that we normally wouldn't talk about. And then, in the ending, the finale, you get to see your work performed on stage, or, you brought in other people, performers, I think we created some performers who didn't even know they were performers. So that was really exciting, in the very end. So I just hope we can continue to do this, uplift our people into positive actions, and to create art, because I do believe creating art can heal in many, many ways for all people. So, and I'm hoping that we can do this in the future. I have had some people ask, but it does require, this requires money too, there's still many things we want to finish out with the creation story, there's many versions of this story. But I would like to create bigger things for this story, and this story could go in different ways too, so, but it's going to require some money to do that, and I'm trying to figure that out, and I'm trying to figure out how we can get the puppet theater as well. We may even become a really formal organization now, because we just enjoyed it so much. And I know some of the performers enjoyed it so much, they want to continue it on, and other people want to see it. And I do believe that we are influencing other people out there. Maybe, another tribe can do their own thing. So that's where the future of it is right now.
Addie, do you have anything to add for your final thoughts?
I just want to remind everyone, this event, while it was a celebration and it was a great day, we need to remember what we're commemorating. And that was the removal of us to this land. And it's a lot. I mean, we've been here for 150 years. 150 years. We are very resilient people. And just remember that. I want everybody to remember that. You are Wahzhazhe. You are Wahzhazhe people, and we are strong, powerful people. Remember that in your everyday life. Remind yourself every morning when you get up, I'm Wahzhazhe. And then I just want to thank everybody that helped us. There's, like Felicia said, there's so many people. It wasn't just a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 person. This was, you know, a lot of people putting in a lot of work over a long period of time. And there's still, like she said, there's still more to come. But there's just so many people to thank. But I want to, you know, first thank Chief Standing Bearer and Assistant Chief Walker and our Congress for giving us the funding to do this. And like I said, it was an event that was created for all Osages, no matter where you were from. You had the opportunity to be here. So that's all.
Well, thank you, Felicia, Welana, and Addie for joining us on our second episode of This Osage Life. You can watch videos from the Osage Nation Sesquicentennial celebration on the Osage News YouTube channel. The Osage Nation Communications Department will also be publishing a film about the day by Osage filmmaker Ryan Redcorn. So there's that to look forward to as well. So until next time, thank you for joining us, and we will see you later. Queton, Iwi de Ka-She, Kakwana.